What's going on, guys? My name is Zach Gardner. I'm a designer here at Newcastle Lawn and Landscape, and today we're going to be looking at a project that we designed and installed. The reason I selected this project, I just think it's a really good example of how plants complement a hardscape in the overall design. Today, I'm mostly going to be focusing on plants. I will mention a little bit about the hardscape. And before I get into things, you're going to hear me mention rooms. And what a room is in a landscape design is a designated space or area that has a function or a purpose. So if we take a look here at this design, we have 1, 2, 3, and this fire pit area would be 4. These are examples of 4 different rooms, and then in between you have what we would call like the hallways that connect the areas. So coming down here, this is a hallway, this might be considered a hallway, and then again to the fire pit area you have 2 different hallways. When designing a space, we'll use a number of different plants, trees, grasses to kind of create or act as like the wall or the ceiling. So if you take a look here, we have, I'm actually going to turn off the light so you guys can see better. We have this fire pit area. This is like a great example of the walls and the ceiling. So these plants right here that border this fire pit area could be the wall. These grass here and these trees are a great example of walls. And the trees, doesn't necessarily have to be the big tall tree. It can be any, I mean, you can use grasses, you can use even a smaller tree. These river birches will get quite large, but it doesn't have to be this giant tree. If you take a look over here, these shrubs do the same thing. They act as the wall and the ceiling to kind of enclose the space, make it feel more purposeful. Another thing that makes this design so great is when using the walls and the ceilings, or the plant material, they really break up the material. So if you take a look here, we just have this one area as one big square, it's a lot of material. It's a lot of one material that might become an eyesore, and also it doesn't allow you to break up the material. You'd have to do an pretty difficult inlay, but the plants allow you to break up the material. So we go from one material, and then once you go into this next room, the material might switch up. So that's a good way to break up a space. Again, if you take a look over here, having the foundation planting right here, again, breaks up the space. If we have the hardscape come right up to this foundation, it's just a lot. It's a lot of concrete and hard material. This really softens up the eye, like the design to your eye. Also, having a foundation planting like this just adds a different interest and different characteristic to the overall space. And when it comes to interest, a lot of people think that it comes down to the blooms of the flower. That's not always necessarily true. Yes, it can be a big thing when it comes to design, but that's not always the case. One thing to always keep in mind when designing a space, you gotta have 4 seasons of interest. And when it comes to the winter, a lot of people struggle with that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like an evergreen tree, shrub, or anything like ground cover, like these plants here. A good example of that is the river birch right here, and this Japanese maple. Each one is very unique in their own way. If you take a look, the river birch has this exfoliating bark that even in the winter adds a lot of interest to the space. Again, this Japanese maple, it loses its leaves, but it still has this very unique architecture to it that in the winter it can still add interest to the overall space. And when it comes to summer, we did include some flowering perennials and shrubs. Prime example right here, we have the spirea and the daylilies. These are 2 different colors, contrasting colors, but they really complement each other. You have the purple with the yellows and the oranges, and that's really repeated throughout this design. This purple fountain grass, the cone flower, the spirea that has like the yellow leaves but the purple flowers is another really good example. And even just changing up the textures of the plants, again, is important. This is another good example. You have the hostas with the big leaves, kind of like the heart shaped, and then you have the spirea that's like the fine, smooth leaf. And then if you continue the daylilies to the spirea, again, just 2 completely different textures and characteristics. One thing we really pride ourselves on is each design we do is very unique and personalized. So if this is something you're interested in and you want something done to your backyard or just anywhere on your property, please feel free to reach out to Newcastle. We'd love to help you out. Thank you.